Hi, this is Elizabeth, one of the co-hosts of Beauties and Headcanons. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media.
This is Julianne Condia, host of Rewritten, here on Public House Media. Thank you so much for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media. Once you are done with this episode, I hope you'll come check out my show, Rewritten, where we will talk about you having limitless potential and can rewrite your story at any time. No matter your background, your past, or current situation, you can have the type of life you crave. A new show comes out every single Monday. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes so you never miss an episode of Rewritten. Thanks again for checking out the following broadcast on Public House Media.
Pals.
I'm Maddie.
And I'm Jess.
And welcome back to Crown and Dangerous.
Episode 26.
Pretty much our year-long point because 26 plus 26 is 52 and there's 52 weeks in a year.
Oh my gosh. This is our halfway point. Our first episode was, we talked about this the other day, September 6th, I think, of last year. So we're coming up on our 1 year.
Which is super exciting.
Our anniversary. So thank you for following along with us.
Right.
Through this wild excursion.
It's been pretty crazy.
It's been a good time. What's been new since we were just chatting for an hour or two
before we started recording.
We started just catching up because it's weird not living together.
Yeah. Nothing really that crazy.
No.
Just kind of getting settled in. I'm excited for fall.
Yes,
September in a few weeks, which
Me
is
too.
sad, but I kind of miss fall and winter, which is I'm just in this weird
I know. This
mood.
is such a weird transition period for both of us right now, and I don't know what to do about it.
I also think I have cancer.
So before we started recording, I've been feeling Maddie's armpits.
So, okay, I've had this lump in my right armpit since 2014, and I got it checked out. Is it 2014 or 2015? And they were like, oh, it's fine. You can get it removed if you want, but it's just a fatty lump.
Yeah.
But, it started to itch recently, and then if you Google...
I think the itchy part is weird.
But, okay, if you Google itchy armpits, it'll be there's some symptoms of, what they told me I had, but, it also could say that you could have cancer.
Yeah.
And then, sometimes I'm, I feel like I'm tired all the time, and I'm always shortness of breath, when you inhale, but you feel like you can't get enough air. Maybe that's anxiety. So I don't know what it...
It's tricky to tell because a lot of it can just overlap and it's a lot of gray area.
Well, then I was telling Jessica, and I'm just it's hard to breathe. And she goes, well, cancer can spread. Who the heck says that to somebody when they're contemplating they have cancer?
I do want to clarify, though, because you said it in a way that was can't cancer spread or something? You asked it in that way. And so I confirmed.
I said, could it spread?
And I was like, yes, it could.
Why would you say that, though?
Honest,
You'd be like, no, you're fine. That's what I would say.
I still think you're fine.
Do you?
I just answered your question.
Or are you just trying to be nice?
No, I really do think you're fine. I think you're freaking out unnecessarily.
So we texted Jessica's med school boyfriend.
We sent him a picture of her armpit
lump. A picture of my armpit lump and descriptors. Has he responded yet?
Nope, not yet.
Okay, we're waiting.
We're still, the results are coming from the lab.
Can you tell him the buildup is making me more anxious? If he could just drop everything that he's doing?
Yeah, if he could just stop his schedule right now, that'd be great. He's probably at the clinic with homeless people right now.
Stay tuned to the end of the episode to find out about cancer.
Oh my God.
I'm just crying.
So that's how the past couple weeks have been.
Yeah, it's really hard for me to breathe right now.
We're okay. We'll be okay. Nevertheless, she persisted.
I can't even think about dying. It's my biggest fear in life.
Oh my God, you're not gonna die. It'll be okay. What were we... Oh, last episode. It feels like forever ago.
It does.
Last episode, we talked about the new details about the Miss America competition, about it being in Connecticut.
Yeah.
In December.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Go listen if you feel like it.
It's okay, though. This one, I think, will be a helpful episode because we want to cover an area of competition for all of you who are competing very soon.
It is. And it's personally my most dreaded phase of competition. One
Same here.
I'm just not a good Onstage question person. I'm not. It's so horrible. I went to school for journalism, but I hate the sound of my voice in a microphone. I don't like answering. Well, okay, and the problem I have, which I mentioned on past episodes, is I think that a lot of Onstage questions are written really horribly.
Yes.
And they really make me mad. Because they're questions that nobody can figure out, ever.
No, it's a lot of...
they're just dumb.
It's a lot of... There are many that are open-ended. There are many that are set up for you already, so it's difficult to kind of go your own route. But we want to... talk about some different Onstage questions that we have gotten before and maybe some common ones that you may get, and just kind of talk through them a little bit so you can get an idea of maybe some things that you can work on as you're preparing for Onstage question and beyond. Should we jump in?
Well, let's jump in.
Right away. Let's see here. Should we just start from the top and go down?
Yep.
Okay. So one... note that I wanted to say is that a lot of topics that are covered in Onstage question are often
hot button topics
like political issues or things like healthcare, gun control, immigration, social media, environmentalism, a lot of social issues too, like race relations, gender, stuff like that. So just be prepared to know a little bit about each of those topics in general, because I think knowing about those things in a broad sense is better than trying to memorize a bunch of little tiny details.
Right.
I always think that's more helpful just to kind of get a general understanding.
And it depends too on how it's written, because I think Onstage questions that provide context are really helpful.
I agree.
I think it's being nice to the contestant, because I think it's kind of mean to just give like a 5-word question and then you just have to jump in. I think when context is provided, it's more fair.
I think so too.
And
then you have a little bit to go off of and some evidence.
And they expect you to be experts on CMNH. They expect you to be experts on every single social issue and have an answer to how you would solve the world's problems. And it's just not realistic. Like, people say, oh, I want Miss America to be real, but I also want her to know all of these things that nobody else in the world, our top leaders, can figure out. Yeah. Tell me how that makes sense. How's that being real?
It doesn't.
No.
It doesn't.
Especially,
I think
it's asking that of some 17, 18-year-old girl. Like,
right. I think it's valid the point where...
She doesn't know what college she wants to go to.
Right. I think it's valid where Onstage question is trying to, see how you answer on the spot and how well you know about issues that are important, because I don't know. I don't really get the reasoning behind it, but also I also don't think there has been any appearance where someone's come up to me and asked me a political question.
No, that never happens.
Never. So... I think mostly
is it relevant?
Right.
Question of the year.
So I think mostly it's just about how you can answer on your feet and
how you can control yourself.
How you can control how you react to a situation under pressure.
The thing is, though, no audience likes watching Onstage question. I don't think. Everyone clenches. Everyone cringes. Everybody gets nervous.
I hate it.
You feel bad when someone, bliffs an answer.
Yep.
It's sad.
It is.
I don't like it. I feel like nobody ever hits. I mean, maybe there's a rare 10 out of 10 Onstage question, but it's very rare.
Very rare. Maybe one.
Yeah.
Like in 5 pageants that I've been like, wow, that was amazing.
I know. Let's go to some common topics that are pretty much, at least in our state, like they're always, I think a lot of Onstage questions are recycled.
Oh, 100%.
And I always hear the same ones.
I hear the same ones. I think I've especially at like a handful of local pageants, I think it's the same questions every year. I think you know which one I'm thinking. But yeah, I want to bunch the top 2 together, because I think, or do you want to go through an answer?
Well, I want to make a side note. I feel like every pageant, locals, create their own kind of rules when it comes to Onstage question. I don't know what's the contract, but this is what I'm going to say. Either some people do political questions.
Some are fishbowl, some are not.
Right. And then some are platform, which like I want to compete in a pageant that gives me a platform. Or I've competed in 2 pageants where they list all the Onstage questions like up on a wall.
Right.
Beforehand.
And then you have to kind of figure out which one you might get.
Right, exactly. So I don't know what the official stance is.
I don't like the variance in that.
I think it's political fishbowl. I think that's really what it is. Yep.
Where you're not supposed to know any idea of what it's going to be. But also there have been some pageants where you have 2 Onstage questions.
Mm-hmm.
Where you do one that's platform based and then one that's just like a fishbowl.
Whereas platform based, I mean, that one's kind of a softball, honestly. Like, you can make that and steer that to whatever you want.
Pretty much, because you already know what you're talking
right.
about there.
So platform, we're going to really just focus on fishbowl political.
Yep, just wild card
If it's platform A, you should probably know it. Though everyone gives, like, a bad onstage question answer here and there. I'm somebody that, like...
Oh, me too. I bombed so many of them.
Right. I bomb them. The ones that were listed on the wall, like, you kind of have a guesstimation for. But we're going to talk about political fishbowl.
Yeah.
That's the most common.
Random ones. First question. What can be done to fix rising healthcare costs in the U.S.?
So what would you answer this? Let's give them, like, a cheat sheet.
Cheat sheet for this one.
Okay, about these questions, too, like, they're vague. Like, healthcare. Yes. So is this, like...
Yep. So this is another tricky part about onstage question. Exactly, because you could take it any way that you want to. And I think that's where a lot of girls will get flustered, is because it's so broad. Like, healthcare is so huge. You have vaccinations, you have insurance, you have Medicare, you know, there's so many different topics in it. So I guess one piece of advice is to just focus on what exactly the question is. So what can be done to fix rising healthcare costs in the United States?
I feel like I would take this an insurance route, and I would say something along the lines of how we need young, healthy people to get insurance and buy insurance so we can offset the people who do use up their premiums and have, like, ballooning healthcare costs and stuff, so you can kind of balance it out.
Yeah.
Because that's why, like, health insurance is so expensive.
Sure.
But I actually hate this question.
Me too. I hate talking about healthcare because I don't know much about it.
I know. Same.
I mean, the majority of these I just, like...
I know. I'm kind of grasping at loose ends.
Me too.
What can be done to fix rising?
I think I would say something like...
Look at some statistics, maybe.
Yeah.
Your own direction. You have a platform that has this, tie that in.
And that's another thing, too. If there's an onstage question where you can, like, even pick apart one tiny thing that may relate to some experience that you've had or your platform, like, just run with it.
Right. Because I even think you can really tie that into anything. Like, my platform is about sexual assault, and I can talk about the cost of, you know, the kind of testing. Do rape kits cost? I should know that. I don't know, like rape kits or sexual assault, like what?
Just testing and care and whatever.
And like you can even go into like STD checks, Planned Parenthood. Sure. You could take that in a Planned Parenthood direction if you're really, you know, passionate about that.
I agree. So whatever you know most about, I think, run in that direction. Don't try and just pick something out of thin air.
Like we are.
Right. You're welcome. I think
if anybody writes that question, like they're mean. Like that's a horrible question.
I hate that. I'm going to skip that one because I want to answer this next one. Because I have a little bit of advice about this one. So the next question we have is education a privilege or a right? And I think this may be a hot topic this coming year because it'll be an election year coming up.
Do you know what I think would be funny? Low-key thought, super quick.
Yeah.
If someone said to me, what can be done to fix rising healthcare costs in the U.S., I would say a vague question deserves a vague answer, so we should fix it.
Sometimes I wish I could just combat like a terrible question with a terrible answer, and they won't.
I tell you this all the time. Last year at when we competed at state, when I was asked like a gambling thing in Ohio, I wanted to say, well, this is not Miss Ohio. So
I don't really know.
Right.
Things in Ohio.
Especially gambling. Like, I've never gambled in my life.
No.
I've never been to a casino. I don't know.
I've never bought a lottery ticket actually either.
No, me neither. Okay, back to you.
Anyway, is education a privilege or a right?
So does this mean college, I'm guessing?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so higher education. So I think this will be an especially, this is, a common topic that's brought up. One, because in Miss America, it's all scholarship based. So it's heavily focused on education, they say.
I would say, I think it's a privilege just because it's something that I think if you maybe, can't afford education, it almost makes, and maybe I'm wrong, but, you can work hard, you can get scholarships, it sets you apart from other people. I think, there's obviously a lot of other things that set you apart. We talk about now, in post-grad life, being everyone has a degree, it's how you interview, gets you the job.
Right.
But I think if it's something that everyone has, what's the point of going anymore?
Okay. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's just, everyone has it.
Sure. Because now people are saying, you need a master's degree to do well.
Right, exactly.
Because everybody's getting bachelor's. I understand that.
And I think overall I would argue it's a privilege, but I would also say that education does need to be more affordable.
I agree with that too. And I think I would go that route.
That's a safe route.
Yeah.
So it's you agree with one thing, but there's also still a problem there.
Yep.
You're not fixing the problem. You're not giving a cop-out.
I think that's a good way to answer a majority of Onstage questions is to share your opinion, but also show that you do understand both sides.
Yeah.
So I would say something like that. I think that education is... I don't think it should be seen as like some high privilege thing. I think it should be something that should be more accessible to people who may not be able to afford it initially. So that also means like maybe in high schools pushing more scholarship dollars or, different routes to be able to afford a higher education. So I think for both of these questions though, about healthcare and education, it's about being able to share an opinion on issues that are affecting everybody.
Right.
Especially bipartisan issues.
And it is like a very individualized thing because not everybody wants to go to college. Not everybody wants to go into a field that requires college.
Right. I've gotten a question before too, like, what do you think is the better route to go? Should you go into the workforce right after high school or go to college? And I always say it depends on what you do.
It's not, you can't speak for everyone.
Yep. Let's move on to the next one. I think this one's interesting. What should be done to address the growing heroin problem in Wisconsin? I think an easy answer would be to say encourage community resources for those with addictions. I think that would be my route.
Right. I think
just ensuring that communities everywhere have resources for those with addictions.
And if you do go the education route, I guess talk about the effects of it, what to look for if you have a family member, you see somebody with something, report it.
Yep.
Having people do demonstrations, like we used to have the police officers come in as kids.
Yep. Yeah.
Seeing if you see a needle, don't pick it up, don't touch it.
Call the police. Yeah.
Right.
Whatever. But I think this kind of question stresses the importance of knowing hot topics that are local and statewide.
Right. Throw out some statistics.
Yeah.
Maybe bring up, if you have a personal connection,
right.
not to heroin, but
but just like
a family that struggles with addiction, or maybe talk about rehab.
Yep. How you would help someone through this issue if you were in this situation. I think regardless of which state you're in or what title you're competing for, just know a little bit about what's going on.
And maybe bring in age groups too. Be like, I think different tactics can really be done for different age groups. Be like kids, maybe you do need those demonstrations. You need to see warning signs. You need, you do need that knowledge. Whereas adults, maybe it's, rehabilitative facilities, resources. Identifying, reporting stuff, whatever.
Yep. It's tricky, but ultimately, just know a little bit about what's going on in your city or your state too, so you're able to kind of answer those hot topic questions. Because I don't know, like you said, I don't know what's going on in Ohio.
Right.
So wherever you're from, just know a little bit about some of the things that are happening. A follow-up question to this one that could be similar is, what is the biggest issue facing Wisconsin? Judges could ask something like, what's the biggest issue facing your generation? Or what's the biggest issue facing women today?
Make social media.
Right. Always
hear that
social
one.
Media is the whole problem. But, so again, know what's going on. I think a good route to go with this one, is maybe a little bit road less traveled.
I would talk about maybe,
oh
my God, what was McKenna's platform? Table Talk.
Civil discourse?
Yes. I would always talk about civil discourse, especially in the, these past 4 years.
Yeah.
I would talk about that just because Wisconsin is such a swing state.
Yeah.
That it's kind of important.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I like that route. Yeah, I think always taking the road less traveled with these kinds of things will make you stand apart.
Eloquent when I put it, but
we're just going to throw out some suggestions here.
Anyone who knows me knows my answers are always
we've been
not in pageant, but just sporadic. I like
throwing
out
of pageant mode for what, a year and a half now?
Yeah, we're telling you what you should answer. Credibility, dig it.
Oh God. All right. Next question. Want to ask that?
Should there be stricter gun laws for individuals with mental illness?
Tricky, but a very hot topic that will probably be asked at every single pageant.
And some people ask do guns kill people or do people kill people?
Yep.
I've gotten that.
Yep. So this question is very clearly set up already. So they want you to say something about mental illness, right?
Right.
But you can steer an answer toward your opinion, and you can steer it away from the question's original structure if you want to. So I put an example down here that, say, for example, you wanted to just cover gun control in a whole nutshell and go that way. You could say something like, well, I believe there should be stricter gun laws for everyone, not just for those with mental illness. We need stronger background checks and ones that are within a more extensive process, so we can make sure that those who blah, 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 blah. So you don't necessarily have to go a mental illness route, or you could go and say, I actually disagree with this, and I don't think that there should be stricter gun laws, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
So don't be afraid to go away from what the question is structured as.
And I would say too, especially since they did bring in the mental illness, I always talked about, yes, like I think there should be stricter gun laws. However, we also need to put a focus on mental illness and see what resources we have available in specific communities. Like so always tie that. That's a really, it's kind of that's a softball one to me.
It's a tricky one too because
it's a softball one. Just
I think it could be tricky though because again you can steer it away and go very broad with gun control, or but at the same time I think it's hard because you should address the whole question in your answer, right?
Yep.
So that's where I'm kind of balancing because it's like, do you be safe and cover it in general, or do you dig yourself in a hole if you don't know a whole lot about the question?
I guess I would say yes, I believe there should be stricter gun laws for everyone, not just for those with mental illness. However, speaking of mental illness, we do need to institute these facilities or these resources into this school or this education, So I would, talk about it like that.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's fair.
So I don't really think anybody would, it's hard too, because it's like some of these questions, is anybody actually going to say no to?
Right.
Like, no, there shouldn't be stricter gun laws for people with mental illness. Like,
that's
really?
Hard. I really wonder if someone who really strongly opposed that, how they would answer that.
Right.
I wonder.
Let's go to some fluff questions.
Fluffy!
Because those come in everybody in the audience just goes, where the heck did that come from?
Yes.
Personally, I do not think that you should be asking political questions to some girls and then some be like, are you happy?
Totally I hate that. Yeah.
I've gotten that one in an interview. Are you happy?
No. That's so dumb.
I'm not.
No, I'm not
answering this question. It's taking up time in my interview.
Exactly. Let me ask you, Madeline, how are you inspirational?
I'm not. I'm a lazy. I'm kidding.
How are you inspirational?
It's gross.
This can just brag about what you've done.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Do not start off saying, well, I'm a role model to younger.
Absolutely not. No.
I've heard that.
This is a perfect opportunity to just throw the fluff out the door and reiterate how you're ready for the job.
I think too what a lot of people would do here too is bring in like a backstory. Like if you have a really sob story platform, now is the time to bring it up.
Right.
How are you inspirational? Then maybe
I've made a difference in this way.
Don't be like I volunteer. No, everyone does that. Yeah. Don't say something that everybody else does or it's on everybody else's resumes.
I am a leader.
I started a social media movement.
Yeah. I have a hashtag, so does everybody.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone has a hashtag at this point. Like, go back to the basics maybe. Right. Talk about
how are you inspirational?
Talk about yourself. Don't talk about like almost like what you do. Talk about who you are as a person.
Sure.
What qualities do you specifically have that no one else has here?
I like that. Yeah, I like that route because there will be a lot of commonalities between candidates. I mean, you're all applying for the same job here. So.
And do not say you're relatable. Do not say I'm inspirational because I'm relatable.
That's so
maybe
overused. Instead
of saying relatable too, like I hate that word. We're gonna start calling that the R word because I don't like it.
So overused.
Use the word. I like the word genuine.
Genuine.
I would say
sincere.
Yep, sincere and genuine. Those are way better words than relatable.
Yep.
Do not say the R word. I don't like it.
Ugh. Overused.
It is. It's horrible.
If you're using the word relatable to describe yourself,
you're
really
not
relatable.
No. And also, I think it's funny because to me, when someone's like, "Oh, I'm so relatable," it's like you're putting yourself up on a pedestal, saying that like
everybody else underneath you is not.
Right.
Yeah. Or nobody else can relate to you.
Yes.
Yeah. It's fair. It's weird. I don't like that.
It's like I don't like when people put on their crown. They're like, "Oh, I'm just like you," but it's like, why are you putting yourself on that pedestal anyways? Like, we're all the same person beneath it. We all, oh my god, like we all don't always wear makeup and we all eat pizza sometimes, but it's like you're just like everyone else. You don't even have to say you're related,
Right. You don't have to say you're
I'm just sick of it.
Right.
I'm sick of everyone saying, well, I'm so relatable to so many people. What?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
All right. Let's go to the next one. What would you say to a critic that claims pageants demean women? This is where you have to sell out.
Do you think?
I don't know. I just think this is like a perfectly set up question for someone to just like go on and on about how great the organization is.
I would say, look at my degree. I got it for free. How much was yours?
Well, I don't think it's demeaning that I was able to pay for an entire year of school and continue my education, and I've been able to serve my community and represent the area that I come from.
And I would say, I always go this route. I always say feminism is about supporting all women's choices, whether you agree with it or not. You're just happy that they have the choice to do whatever they want. So actually, by you telling me that I can't do a pageant because you think it's demeaning in your personal opinion, then you're not really supporting my choices as a woman, and you're not really supporting feminism.
Yeah.
So I would say, actually, no, you're in the wrong.
Right. So go in the route where, like, explain the things that you've gained from you participating and how strong and intelligent and wonderful of a person you are because you were given so many great opportunities through something like this.
Right.
Whatever.
This is a pretty sugar cookie answer.
Yeah. Let's see. What else?
Oh, that's a meeting woman question.
I know.
Grinding my gears. Also, did he text you back on if I
Oh,
have
should we have an update? Oh, we have 7 messages.
No! Oh my god, no.
Oh.
Oh no, please don't. No, you can say it out loud.
No, it's good.
Okay, what did he say?
This is what's wrong with Madeline's armpits. He said, number 1, I'm not a doctor yet.
Okay, well,
so
okay.
I told you that he would say, like, she needs to go to a real doctor. Okay. He has 3 years yet until he gets the MD. But, so she had an ultrasound and it was negative and they didn't do any other testing. It's probably okay.
Okay.
Number 2, the fact that it's on both armpits means it would be extremely, extremely, extremely unlikely that it's something serious. Because usually a tumor is only in one place.
Mm-hmm.
And not, like, matching on both sides.
Okay, but this one is smaller than this one, though.
Okay, let me finish.
Okay.
Number 3, some people's lymph nodes just work differently than others. Could be that hers are just backed up with lymph. What? I don't know what these words are. Oh, I know that sounds like a gross thing, but it's basically just fluid that escaped being returned back to the right places. 4, honestly, try switching deodorants. Some people can get clogged pores from antiperspirant especially. 5, go see your primary care if you're really worried about it. Never a bad idea to see your primary. 6.
What?
6. Cut it open and see what comes out.
Oh my god. Can you ask him, be like, okay, so since she's had these for like 5 years, like if it was bad, would she probably be dead by now? It's like that will reassure me.
Okay. She's asking if she's had it for years.
Would it have killed me by now if it was bad?
Would it have killed? Okay. Sounds good.
Okay. Thanks for that little health update. That helps.
Little intermission real quick.
Whew.
Wow.
That was a roller coaster. But, so while Jessica texts him back, I'm going to start this other segment. I just basically wrote down onstage questions that I got and how I answered them and how I wish I would have answered them. So my first question was, I wrote down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I remembered 8 of my onstage questions. 1 was, what would you do to improve race relations in the United States? Mm-hmm. Which, again, I think this is a horrible question.
Broad. There's so many different things.
But something that I talked about was obviously like rebuilding the trust between, Blue Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter, like blah, blah, blah. I've also been asked, like, what, all lives matter or Black Lives Matter? Which, what the heck? But anyways, I answered this how we should compare times of really high racial tension, like, the 60s, and then compare that with times of, like, the lowest racial tension ever, which was, like, the 80s and 90s.
Sure. And
kind of see, like, different things, like, what things were used back then. Also, I talked about NASA, because NASA... So, together, right? I like NASA. My sister is obsessed with NASA. And I think NASA cures everything. Because during a time of high racial tension was, like, the space race. Mm-hmm. And that brought everybody together and everybody focused on that. And it kind of diluted the situation between, segregation and all that sort of stuff. So basically, if we want to improve race relations,
let's send a rocket to
thankfully,
space.
we did just refund NASA because NASA was defunct the past 8 years prior to President Trump's reign, which nothing against Obama. I like him, but kind of sucked because I love space. Right. Yeah. But now it's like back up and running again, and there's a bunch of cool space exploration stuff going on. If you want to go to the NASA Twitter page, I follow it. It's great. Okay. So basically, your answer is NASA and...
Cheers, everything.
Yes, NASA.
Cool.
Okay, legalization of marijuana.
This was my final answer at Miss Wisconsin last year.
I think it's just such a boring question at this point. I think if you're still asking this, it's like, okay, really? Like, especially now with like CBD, you could totally take it in that direction. Yep. At the time when we answered it, that wasn't a thing. Right. But I think I'm for it.
Oh, yeah.
Because A, everybody does it anyways. B, tax it, boost our economy because we're, how
I
much
went that route.
Debt.
That's what I said.
Right. And that's the thing. Also, what I think is really cool to do is go and look at how much better off Colorado's economy is.
Washington State.
Yes, take those statistics and put them into your answer and say this 3 billion, 3 million, whatever has been added. You can use that to fund this, to do this, to do this, to do this.
So much more positive change by doing that.
Right. The thing is, people are going to do it anyways. Like, that's kind of my opinion. Like, people still smoke. It's not like it deters people from smoking. Like, people just do it. They just hide it,
Right. But yeah, I went the route of...
especially in Wisconsin with Tony Evers, like, he wants to legalize it, and I think this is the direction that everybody's going in anyways.
It would help more people than hurt people.
Right. And it's like, if you don't like it, don't do it.
Right.
Whoa.
Right.
Whoa. Hard thinking there.
Yeah, I went the route of economy and also just for overall wellness for people who haven't found relief from traditional medication.
Right.
Things like
that. And some people will argue, too. I'm not trying to force my opinion on anybody, but I think people, if your judge argues with you too, like, oh, it's a gateway drug.
Yeah.
You make the conscious choice to do drugs. Like, no, again, like, nobody forces you to do it. Nobody encourages you. Like, if you want to do it and that's a gateway drug for you, then maybe you should stay away from drugs in general. But, like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
No, I hear you.
You make a choice.
Yeah. It's a choice. If you don't want to do it,
then don't do it. I think problems could be solved if, like, oh, it doesn't affect my life? I'm not going to have an opinion on it. Like,
LGBTQ.
Yes.
I mean, like, yeah.
Abortion, like, that's what I'm saying.
Yep, doesn't affect you, so who cares? Yeah.
No.
Anyway.
Yeah. I mean, people have, like, their religious reasons, but guess what? The United States doesn't have an official religion.
That's very true.
Right. Okay, this question really, really makes me mad.
How would you balance the budget?
This might be my number one hated question.
Okay.
Because what the heck is that kind of question? How would you balance the budget?
The United States has not figured this out in years
We're
and years and years.
$20-some trillion in debt. Trillion. How would I balance $20-some trillion of debt? How much do you think we had of our bank accounts post-grad? None.
I'm not running for president. I don't know. How would you balance the budget?
Oh, it made me so mad.
I don't know. Honestly, if I got asked that question right now on stage, I'd be like,
legalize marijuana and tax it. Bye.
I'd seriously I would have no idea what to say.
I think it's a really mean question, honestly.
How would you balance the budget? I don't know. Checks and balances. Who knows?
Get out of debt. That's what I would say. Print more money. That's my favorite.
Print more money.
Oh my god. How would you balance that?
I really don't know how it is.
It's so big and it's so quick too. Again, I think nice questions give context and this gives you none.
If there was a little bit of context before this, maybe I could pick something out of it that I could answer it with. Like, for example, the U.S. has been spending X amount every year on this specific issue or whatever. How would we balance the budget after this? Even then, I wouldn't know what to say.
I would always do Onstage question preparation with my dad.
Yeah.
And there was this one question that I would get asked about, or it was about, like, tax codes or something, which is ironic because my dad's an accountant, so that's why I had this conversation with him about it. Funny, the Word document on my computer is called Pageant Help. So let me look it up real quick. Yeah, so I just want to quick add it. It's funny because I asked my dad all these questions, and this is gold. These are, David's fun answers. But there was one that says, should medical marijuana be legalized? So you could tell this was a while ago.
Okay.
And he said, to be qualified to answer that, you need a medical background to really understand the potential impact. And at this time, I will leave that up to a medical professional.
Your dad?
I know.
That's funny. Did he say anything about balancing the budget?
So there was one that said, do you support reducing Medicare and Social Security payments to balance the budget?
Oh, wow. He's got a long answer there.
So if anyone wants to grab at this, feel free.
Oh, boy.
These are two separate problems. Medicare issue has to do with not only the healthcare system, but the system of reimbursement that Medicare provides to the medical community.
Wow.
As the baby boomers age into Medicare, and Medicare continues to reimburse the medical system at much lower levels than private insurance, the burden on the general public to subsidize the Medicare role will become greater and greater.
Wow.
I mean, there's more, but
wow, that's a lot.
But yeah, I have a huge paragraph.
David, come, everybody. Wow.
It's funny.
I mean, like, I have no idea what to say, and your dad just, like, has every answer.
He does. He really could answer all of these. Like, when we talk.
Is he ever judged?
No.
I think funny as a judge.
He'd be really mean. And plus, he would
though.
just sit there and be like, they have no idea what they're talking about. That's not how that works.
Oh, God.
But, I mean, he gives some good answers. I mean, when we talked about, like, what's the biggest challenge that's faced, he goes, lack of work ethic for society to survive, and needs to work hard and contribute more than what they take from the system. Throughout the course of history, when civilizations have forgotten that, they have ceased to exist. Which I've actually given that answer before. Thanks, David.
Deep.
But
he just dabbed after that one.
I thought that was a great, that's a great answer.
Interesting.
Or have you ever been asked to, low-key, what presidential candidate do you support? How would you answer that? Because there's some, like, in past Miss Americas, they've been like, Hillary Clinton,
was
go.
that very upfront? Or
Donald Trump, go. Like,
right.
They've done that.
Yeah. How would I answer that? I think I would just give my honest opinion and then give some reasons why I would support that person. I don't know.
Right. I think, too, it depends on your pageant, is because I think at some instances you can say it's too early to decide.
Too early to tell. Yeah, that's true. Because right now, I mean, I feel like a lot of people feel that way.
Back to the OG list.
Madeline, how can colleges step up against sexual assault?
So this was a platform one for me, but I think it's becoming more and more kind of it's becoming more mainstream. I think after 2017 Me Too movement, before it was kind of like, but now I think it's pretty common, especially with like Brock Turner. Were you keeping up with this whole Quintez Cephas stuff here at UW-Madison?
A little bit. I've been seeing a couple articles, yeah.
I would, if you were asked that now, I'd bring maybe that into it and talk about how right now UW has not decided if they're letting him back in or not.
Okay.
So they're kind of just like letting it slide. So maybe talk about the effects that that's having on the community.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe as a sports organization too, like a D1 school that survive, like, you know, like
there have been a lot of cases of that too. Like,
cases, there's been a lot of money involved, a lot of people involved, people's lives are on the line.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he lost his, you know, like he can't go to school there anymore. He lost last year of football.
Yep. Yeah.
Because of that.
So what are the effects? Yeah. What are the effects on the people around them?
Right.
How specifically can colleges step up against sexual assault?
So I would use maybe examples from your own college that you've seen.
Yep.
I talked about that.
That's cool. Yeah, just give some good examples. I think that's a good way to do it.
And too, like, I don't know, I think it's in Wisconsin, every single syllabus has to have that clause about Title IX.
Yep.
I think that's really cool.
Yep. Yeah, just making sure there are resources on campus for that and education.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I got this question my second year at Miss Wisconsin, but it was good because it provided context. So I still remember it was like lately, it was like in San Bernardino, there was an active shooter. Should Apple basically be required to give over like the passcode or open the phone of the shooter, or is it a privacy situation? Or like, should he still have the right to his personal privacy?
Sure.
And I said, yes, I do respect everyone's personal property and privacy. However, when you do outrightly do something illegal or disobey the law, like you basically deserve to lose that right of privacy. So yes, I should have opened it. And how it could, I think I said something about how opening the phone of, you know, his could give us clues about like mental illness or
some signs
shootings
that we could have seen to prevent something like this.
Right. And then, well, not even signs to prevent it because they wouldn't have opened it until after it. But I talked about how it could give clues to future shootings down the road or something like that.
Yeah.
So that's how I answered it. And then this one I saw, this last question was not my question. I saw a fellow contestant get asked it, but she had a really bomb answer, but it was, what does being an American mean to you? So that's kind of an interesting question that you could get asked. But that's something to think about too. Like, you know, we give like little hints of like what we would answer, but did you really just like start reflecting, just, you know, maybe start a thought about how you would answer something.
Yeah. Do you have any I guess general tips on preparing for Onstage question, or how you prepared for Onstage question before pageants?
Number one, I would say like I said, I had a Word document, and I would sit down and just talk with my dad, and I would just write down everything we said and study it.
Yep.
I never had like a scripted answer. I just kind of had general ideas. But number one, answer the question. I get so annoyed when I sit in an audience and I get it. It's so nerve-wracking. Like
it's hard to formulate a very structured answer.
And I cut everyone some slack. But like above all, listen to the question and answer the question. Mm-hmm. I will never forget my second year at state. Mulaney came up to me and she was like, "You can make top 5." And I'm like, "I hate Onstage questions." She was like, "Maddie, listen to the question. Take a second to think about the question. Answer the question. Do not sit here and like, you know, freak out, but answer the question. Yeah. Like, answer it, because I'll hear people give answers and I'll be like, okay, that wasn't bad, but it didn't answer the question.
Right.
It wasn't even close to answering the question.
Exactly. Yeah.
So answer the question. Also, when somebody asks you the question, do not say, "Oh, that's a great question." That's the worst.
Like, obviously,
what a good question.
Obviously, it's a great question because they asked it.
But
also,
no,
there's
it's
shitty
not.
questions too. But
so that's a great question. Thanks for asking me. No,
you're just wasting time.
Yes. Also, short, sweet.
Short and
sweet.
You
do not need to say a novel. Sometimes there might be a time limit. Make sure you know if there's a time limit. Open your mouth and ask if there's a time limit.
Yeah.
I did every single year at Miss Wisconsin. Even if I didn't make top 5, I would always say, "Is there a time limit for final night Onstage question?" Because prelims there always is.
Oh yeah.
Final night there's not, unless you're like Miss America. But yes. So always ask about the time limit, but don't go on nonsense. That's when you get yourself in trouble. You ramble.
And then you dig yourself a hole.
I coughed in the middle of my Onstage question this past year. That I ended it really quick after, because I was like, nope, this is done.
What I did to prepare for Onstage question, I had Google Docs of every single week. So I would read the news every single day, and on one Google Doc each week, I would write down like hot topics that happened during that week, and then I listed like all my thoughts about them. So I made one for each week, so I had like however many by the end.
See, that's a lot of work.
I did that every single time.
And that's a nightmare for me.
I know. But yeah, I did that every week. That was helpful because I just like read the skim every day, or like
I read the skim.
Yep. So I just wrote down notes from those, and just kept like a little booklet then.
My old director that we once shared used to do like sheets and like weekly topics that we would have to sit and
share
do.
Our opinions and things we learned. And
I'm a big wing it person too. Like, I just do better when I wing it. So like I'll have general ideas in my mind.
Yeah.
But otherwise, no.
Yeah. Do what works best for you. I think. I think what's best is to just study topics overall. Just learn some information about what's going on in your area and in your state, and really reflect honestly about how you feel about each of these things. You don't have to mainstream it, but just be honest about how you feel.
Yeah,
and share that in a
self-reflect, and don't sit and be like, okay, is this the best sounding answer, or am I going to get the best score with the answer? No. Talk about, like, really dig deep down and think, okay, how do I really feel about this topic? And if you really feel a certain way, maybe you can polish it a little bit. Like, a lot of my thoughts need to be polished. Like, I could not say a lot of the things that are on my mind, but you can polish it and you can still make it your own and be an individual.
I agree.
Because
that's the best way to do it. Nobody wants a pat and patty answer.
No, especially with 2.0, they're really stressing the whole, you know, we don't want this cookie cutter person, so don't give the cookie cutter answer.
Right.
Plus, if I was a judge and I heard that, I'd be like, ugh, that was annoying.
Exhausting.
Like, I would almost rather hear an answer that's more unique but rougher on the edges than like this perfectly crafted pageant answer.
No.
I'd be like, okay, there's a nice.
Here's some authenticity. I want to hear your actual thoughts about something.
Right.
And not what you think I should hear.
Right.
Yeah.
And you don't always have to go the easy way out, I would say.
Be original.
No world pieces.
We don't do
no solving world hunger. Like, you know.
No. Should we wrap up?
Let's wrap up.
All right. If you haven't already checked out our Spotify, we have that. Fun playlist. Check it out. You can follow along and add your favorites. But be sure to follow Public House Media and Crowned and Dangerous on Instagram and like us on Facebook. You can subscribe and rate and review the show wherever you're listening. You can comment and email us, slide into our DMs. We'd love to hear from you, so feel free to share your thoughts with us.
We'll be back in 2 weeks on August 29th for a brand new episode. This has been Maddie and Jess reminding you to always wear your invisible crown. Keep it real, and if you do not know what to say, well, peace.
Bye.